Hello, this is Jerry,
And Jacob,
and
and we
we
are
are
two
two
unrelated
unrelated
brothers.
brothers. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. So this is a episode. What is it? 11 now. It's, it's going strong.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be episode 11. So the start of the start of a small new era. This one will be.
Oh yeah. So this is yeah. I mean, that's crazy. 11. I don't know. My mind's still kind of stuck on it, but that's besides the point.
No, I get it's all
What's this
right.
episode?
It's crazy to think of that, and we're officially in the double digits now. Well, like I
I
guess 10
know.
is officially, but now we're getting into it.
Yeah, we're really in the weeds now. I have to say our setups have gotten a little bit more professional, even though we're still doing it through Skype, just because our work schedules and everything. I mean, I think we're doing a good job. Oh, and also I want to apologize for episode 8. One of our loyal viewers let me know that the episode cut off, and it was due to a corrupted Skype file. We ended up fixing it, and the re-uploaded version of episode 8 is up now. So.
Oh, I didn't know someone told you about that.
Yes. Baby G. Shout out to Baby G. He's been a loyal listener since the beginning. So
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy having a buddy who actually listens to you on their commute to work, man. It's pretty
That's
wild.
crazy. That is crazy. Well, I appreciate that, man. That's really cool.
Oh yeah. So man, what's this episode gonna be about?
Well, we're taking a break from games for now, just a short one. We're gonna go a little more into I would say maybe the academic side of this. We're gonna talk about the change or the evolution of controllers and
Wait,
control
academic?
schemes. Academic. Well, you don't act surprised. You sent me a article about this topic.
Hey,
Um,
we're doing a skit. We're doing a skit.
I mean, yeah, academic. Yeah, I read this very nice article, and it's super smart. Better than anything I could have. Definitely better than anything we could possibly do, which is why we read it. And
Yeah, for
before we get
sure.
into the nitty gritty of it, obviously to give credit where credit is due, this article is called "The Evolution of Game Controllers and Control Schemes and Their Effect on Their Games" by Alistair H. Cummings of the University of Southampton. So this is a well-written article. Just Google that. It will probably be one of the just Google evolution of controls, and that's probably gonna be the first thing that pops up.
Yeah, I'll try to find a link and put it in our description just so anybody who's interested can give it a look. But yeah, this is really um, well written. Well, it's not even a critique, but the only setback is this article dates back to 2006. So, like you said, like
Hmm
we were saying earlier, that's 15 years more of I guess controller innovations. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but a lot of headway has been made, especially in the VR space, I would say.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's interesting to see, excuse me, what was being, I guess, critiqued at the time, and I said it's mostly a history of games and the controls, but at the end, he has a paragraph or two, like kind of predicting like where things could go off, and I think it'd be also interesting to I guess expand on that, see like if that's he was kind of right on that, or didn't even mention this, and this is now a huge deal.
Right.
Because this is
And
like the Wii just came out during this year. So just to give it some context to like how long ago this was, the first Wii, not the Wii U, the original Wii.
oh, okay, yeah, I remember when that came out. That was kind of seemed like a gimmick that really, I guess, made its own space and found a way to stay, I guess, relevant for that entire consoles generation. It
Yeah,
was
I
pretty
mean,
strong, I think.
yeah, that could do its whole episode too, like how ballsy of a move that was. But that's again that's a besides the point. So I guess we'll just kind of get into it with this article. I don't know if you wanted to kind of start us off with this.
Yeah, so this article actually starts off with I guess a game called Space War from
Hmm
1961, and in this article there's a couple of pictures. It's a very, I mean, I don't know how to really explain it. It's pretty rudimentary. I mean, I guess it's kind of par for the course for 1961, but it's basically almost like two toggle buttons, one that
Hmm.
goes horizontal and one that goes vertical.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, this was for a game called Space War,
Hmm.
and it was for the PDP-1, which was I guess it was an action-based game. It doesn't really say too much other than it's two spaceships flying around a sun trying to shoot torpedoes at each other.
Yeah.
Uh, so I mean, it's pretty rudimentary. I guess this would be considered a two-player game, I guess.
Yeah, and like one of the other notes I have there, yeah, I think it was an action game. I think it was competitive. I want to say I don't have all those details, but I know a big thing was this is kind of like the first example of a game affecting the controls because like kind of what you were saying, like there's like these all these switches for like the cardinal directions and all that.
Mhm.
And then for switches for like the actions and stuff. And obviously that is not, what's it called? It's just not good scheme. It's complicated and it just makes things confusing. So they actually worked that down from 5 switches to 2 switches. So like one is just pure, movement, and the other is like meant for actions like speeding and shooting and things like that.
Yeah, but surprisingly enough, this wasn't the first controller, right? There was one a little bit earlier, I believe.
Yeah, so this was like the
Uh,
first action game. I think anyone who knows, I think if you had to guess what game was like the first actual video game, then I think half people could guess it's Pong, or at the time it was called Tennis for Two, and this was in 1958. And everyone knows, yeah, it's just the two blocks on each side of the screen. There's a ball, and or not even a ball, it's like a square, and just you hit it past each other, and that's the goal. Hit the ball past each other, and that's how you win the game. And the control for this was a paddle, which is it just looks like. I mean, the best way to describe it is kind of like in like actual ping pong. It was kind of like a paddle looking thing, and it would have like a knob and a button on it, and that's all you would need. And that was like an example of a controller being designed specifically for the game.
right. So that, I mean, there wasn't really much leeway into what could be done with this controller because it was, like you said, specifically designed for, I
Right.
guess, Tennis for Two, which later became Pong in like what for Atari in like 1975.
Yeah, it would obviously. Yeah, think of it like kind of like the alpha, or maybe like even the pre-alpha for Pong.
Okay, okay. And then I mean, like games didn't really. I mean, because I mean, I guess so. Gaming is kind of a new. I mean, it is a new art form, right?
Hmm.
But people don't realize how old it is, right? So like we're talking about 1958, something really simple. But
Hmm.
then video games didn't really make it into the home space until Atari. Like, and that's what in the maybe late 70s.
I would say mid to late
Like that's
70s. It took a while.
yeah.
I'm not entirely sure why this article didn't delve too much into that, but it took some time for it to, I guess, be mass produced and have, I guess, it become popular enough to for people to think, okay, we can sell this and have people play it at home. And like you said, the first home console of this was the Atari 2600, which has the iconic controller of just a joystick with that red button,
Yeah.
in the I want to say the top left corner, and that's all it was. So that's all you really needed because at this time it was just all 2D games.
Right, right. There was really no, I mean, I don't want to say no depth, but I mean, that's
And in a
kind of
way
when
there
Pong
was.
came out. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, in a way.
You go left and
But
right. That's it. No like no Z axis. There's X and Y.
yeah, yeah.
And I think
So,
the best example of, oh sorry, not to cut you off, but like this is huge not
no.
only for the
Yeah.
first home console, but a good point that's brought up. That was the first controller to be designed to take on multiple types of games. This is like
Okay.
the first example of a generic controller, where like multiple games could be designed around it.
Okay. And from what I was reading, there was also like a good driving controller that came out in 1977, but only one game utilized it, and that was Indy 500, according to the article, right?
I believe so, and that was pretty revolutionary, I would say, because that's like the first example of like having something besides the controller control the game. Like obviously now steering wheels, that's just something you use, but you think in the 70s, someone playing this is like, oh my god, like what am I doing?
Yeah, so I'm looking at pictures, and like you said, it was, I mean, really simple. The Atari driving complete just kind of a wheel that you kind of could rotate clockwise or counterclockwise with no, I mean, maybe one button it looks like on the left shoulder. I mean, it was very, very simple. So, I mean, we're at the very beginning. So eventually they started adding a couple more buttons, like the D-pad, which, I mean, the D-pad is like, I mean, it's no big deal, right? I mean, it's
Right.
everything utilizes the D-pad in some way, whether it be accessing, other weapons or spells or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's a no-brainer, you know.
Hmm.
But I think it was saying one of the first consoles to actually utilize this was the what is it? The Atari 7800?
Yeah, that was the
Or
first
no,
one
no, no.
to. I think that was the
Or
first one to
was
actually
it?
utilize it, but it was
Okay, okay.
the NES that stood the test of time. Like that is the one I guess that had the best design.
Right, right. I mean, everybody knows Nintendo. Everybody knows, you know, uh, Mario Bros. All that stuff. That's iconic. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
so like the NES, the D-pad on the left, the select and start buttons in the middle, and you have the two red buttons on the right.
Was
Like,
it like an A and a B button, right?
yeah, I believe it's just A and B, and considering that most of the games were platforming, that's that's perfect. That's all they needed.
Yeah, so it's just, up, down, left, or right. So the down would be used like crouch or something, and up uh, could be used in conjunction with like a or B to jump maybe a little higher. Uh, so still no Z axis, and pretty much all the games were side scrollers, right?
Yeah, still pretty much at this point we're in the 2D era. The biggest thing with the D-pad now is it offered more variety and flexibility with the
Mm.
types of games that could be used. So now you can have things like flying games and or like platforming. Now we're getting like Mario and like basically any like arcadey game. It was probably on the
Right,
NES as
right.
well, like Turtles in Time, beat 'em ups and stuff like that.
So I mean, this it was all controls were kind of like this for a while, right? Until the introduction of maybe some more upgraded PC controls and analog sticks, right?
Yeah. So when it comes to so like just to kind of keep it in you know in a certain time in a timeline here. We'll kind of jump into the PC. But with PC, it's crazy to think that there's been some big steps in it, but once these big evolutions happen, that's it. Like it's like this is it. We're done because this is as good as this controls could get on PC. While on home consoles, it's always like, all right, you can always get better. There's always improvements. The PC is like mouse and keyboard. That's it. That's all you got. That's all you
Well, I
need.
mean, I would argue that PC also, I mean, they began utilizing VR systems way before like PSVR and stuff, and those kind of, had their own set of issues, and I mean, there are multiple different kind of schemes for those kind of hand VR controllers.
Oh no, yeah, that's true. It's that's always been growing pains. I think that's just more of like the under VR itself when it comes to like what I meant specifically was like like we're getting at here. We added joysticks, we added the D-pad, and spoiler alert, we're going to talk about the addition of analog sticks, the shoulder buttons. That's a big thing with PC. It's just like the only thing they really changed was like a couple of certain things, like just and not even the controls themselves, just like oh we should make the mouse do this instead of the keyboard. And it's like oh yeah, that's obvious. Like obvious today it's obvious, but back then it's like oh this just makes things way easier. And the biggest thing that it's a small one, but I think a big thing was like old games back then used the arrow keys to move, whereas today obviously it's WASD.
Yeah, that's so because the arrows are so close. Like you're gonna have your hands like maybe 7 or 8 inches away from each other, depending on how your setup is.
Yeah,
So
and
that's kind
then
of
yeah, and
weird.
then, it's very weird. And then I'm not sure how things were back then, but like I feel like yeah, like so you'd have to use your right hand to do it, right? Or you use your left hand to do it, and then you use your right hand on the mouse. But that's like super uncomfortable, you know? Because
Right. Yeah.
most people are right-handed. Like for you, I guess that wouldn't be a huge deal because you're lefty. But well, even then, I feel like that'd still be weird because it's just not something you're used to.
Yeah. So there's basically the first game to use the WASD keys was I think it was Dark Castle in 1986.
Hmm.
According to Wikipedia, I don't want to steal all the credit like I'm an encyclopedia of knowledge, but according to this article here, it's saying the first game to actually use WASD by default was Half-Life in 1998, which kind of
Mm,
popularized the use of WASD and FPSs.
that makes a
So
lot of sense. Another
that's
reason why we
crazy.
could talk about it.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, people forget like how some of these older games how big they weren't and the reasons why they were big, right? Because they set all these precedents for all these other games. So now we're used to playing the most refined versions of whatever those uh, assets or whatever are, and then
Yeah,
you
we're
go
very
back to this.
spoiled.
Yeah, of course. I mean, just going back to PS3 or PS2 games. I mean, controls. I mean, as far as the smoothness and responsiveness, have really. I mean, they improve all the time.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's crazy thing. Like now, it's more like I feel like we're in a period of refinement, whereas during this time period we were talking about, like this was like huge steps and evolution was taking place. So I can see people just why certain games when they were the first to do something, this is why they've stood the test of time. This is why people always talk about them.
Yeah.
And an example of this is two iconic franchises which have got a second wind, second life recently, semi recently, Wolfenstein and Doom. These were the
Okay.
first on PC from id Software. These were the I want to say the first two, or at least the ones that made it popular, first person shooters with 3D environments. So you could actually like go around and like go through like actual places instead of just going from the screen side to side.
Right. So, do you have any experience with Wolfenstein or Doom?
Man, a little, a little. We before we get into it, I had the Sega Genesis, and which I think would have a port of these games, but we just never were able to get a hold of these probably because they were super popular, and we just even after the fact, a couple years after the fact, you just could never get a hold of them. By the time I did, I was like already, like in my 20s and stuff, and I was still able to appreciate them and stuff and see like, oh, this is still fun. But I guess like I don't have that experience as a kid with them. Did you?
So I think I want to say maybe 16 or so.
Hmm.
So Wolfenstein is actually on the PlayStation Store. So I have it on
Hmm.
PS3, and it's unadulterated. It's the same exact, very simplistic, controls as the original. Uh, I mean, I played it for a little bit. It did get kind of old. It was cool, seeing some basically run up against a wall and press the action button to kind of see if there's any hidden doors. That was
Yeah.
kind of cool. But my first, I mean, that was really my first foray into like Wolfenstein or, id Software. But of course, I think, a lot of people have played the reboots of Wolfenstein and Doom, which I mean,
Hmm.
they're freaking awesome.
Yeah. That just the I would say just thinking about those, the change in like not only graphics but like controls as well in those games. It's insane to think just how much different they are. Um, Another big deal about these games too was like I believe they were the first games that required mapping. Like the developers had to actually think like, okay, what buttons are we going to use for these things? Because
Really?
that wasn't a problem before. Because of the 3D
Right.
and,
This is the first.
the different things
Yeah,
you
'cause
had
it's
to
kind of
do.
a Yeah, it's a first person. And I will say, it's saying that these are kind of like the first 2D first person shooters. I
Mhm.
know they did kind of have, light gun experiences before then, which I would, I guess, consider first person shooter. There's the Terminator, the T2 game on SNES.
Yeah.
And, way after that, the House of the Dead series. But that's way later. That's definitely
Yeah.
established into the 3D. But yeah, that Terminator one was really a simple 2D kind of light gun shooter,
Hmm.
which I mean I would argue is a first person shooter, I guess. Uh, but yeah, that's I would say that's really my first experience with FPSs was that Terminator game that you might see at like a bar or like at a retro kind of gaming arcade. I mean, there's
Yeah.
quite a few out there.
No, yeah, like definitely, and especially during this time on PC, first-person shooters were the jam. Like, and they still are, obviously, because, well, as we get into next, the controls are just perfect for first-person shooters on the PC. Um, so Doom, this was that was also the first game to have different latitudes in the game. So they actually had to add controls so you can look up and down.
What?
Yep. But I say you had buttons. I believe it was the print a page up or page down buttons you had to press to look up and down, which obviously is horrible. And from what I've read, a lot of people just didn't even bother with that. They would just, go through the game as is and, just change, I guess, go upstairs and stuff or take elevators to like get the enemies there. But so then the developers, the studio knew this. They saw that and went, all right, we gotta add something. We gotta change this up. So the next game, Quake, added mouse look. And obviously now it's like,
Okay.
well, yeah, no shit, like that's just how things work. But again, this is what they decided. Like, okay, this is a new feature we got to add, and that was like the last big thing that was added to like the controls of a PC. And again, it's I'm starting because it seems so obvious now. Like, duh, use the mouse to look. Like even when I was little, I'm like, okay, I saw like, oh, the camera moves with the mouse, okay, and that's it. To think like there was a time where that wasn't the case is just so bizarre.
Yeah, people really forget. I mean, I guess what the origins of gaming were and what, gaming has evolved from. And I mean, even like you were saying with Doom, it wasn't really like a incremental like up or down. It was kind of like a toggle. Like you had three positions,
Yeah.
like up, neutral and aiming down. Like that's so ridiculous to think about now. There was no really in between like there is, now you can I guess look at the entire Z axis and I mean you can aim, basically anywhere you want to, essentially.
hmm Yeah,
And
like wherever the mouse can go, that's it. That's
that's what you got.
hmm Yeah, like you were saying before, to think like it was just like like a lever system essentially for your neck. It had no turn. It was just up, down, straight. That's it.
So ridiculous.
Right? I was reading that. I'm like, really? I just thought like since then, like since the first PC game, like, oh, obviously use the mouse to look. But again, it kind of just goes back to like, well, we know that because that's just it was already established by the time we got into gaming.
Yeah, definitely. It's well established by, yeah, for
Like I
sure.
said, like that's pretty much it when it comes to like the PC. Like that's it's done. Like it's perfected. This is why it's the master race, as they say. Like it's the mouse and keyboard, and that's all you need. You're done.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much. I don't know. It's still just boggling to the mind, I guess.
No, yeah, like I
Uh,
said, it was so simple. So like when you hear that those were not the original features or controls, it's like it just really takes you back.
but I mean, so that's on the computer side. So on the home console side,
hmm
people are still dealing with not being able to look up and down, I guess, for quite a while, right? Until the introduction of maybe I guess a powerful enough console that, because from what I understand, I
hmm
think Super Nintendo could play Wolfenstein. I'm not sure about Doom, but um, it wasn't really until the introduction of the analog stick that you could really, utilize, looking up, down, and any other direction you really wanted to, right?
Yeah. So before we get into the analog sticks, which is going to be the very next topic after this, do you know what the first two home 3D consoles were? Do you remember?
Uh, was it a Nintendo 64 and the Sega Saturn?
You got one of them. So the N64 is important. You probably because you're jumping the gun a bit on that. Sega Saturn, yes, which is something I didn't know, but the other one was PlayStation One.
Okay, yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
the big things with those initially were they added the shoulder button, so L1, L2, R1, R2, or whatever it was on Sega Saturn. We didn't have that, so I can't say for sure. They
Right,
added
right.
some more face buttons, and like you were saying too, with the D-pad. So now we have, now starting to become more like representative of what we see controllers today as. And the big thing was this though is that with the 3D now, since they have 3D environments with the D-pad, this led to tank controls.
Right, but before we jump too far ahead, you mentioned the PlayStation controller. Didn't the
Mhm.
first controller actually not have analog sticks though?
Yes,
And that
it
was,
did not.
yeah,
And that's why you had the tank controls. Like so, obviously the best example of this is Resident Evil. And for
right,
people
right.
who don't know, maybe not know what does it mean with the tank controls. Well, basically, you move like a tank. So like wherever you're facing, that's where you're going. So like say you're moving around, you want to go straight, you're going straight, and then you're like, oh, I need to go left. You can't just while you're moving, you can't go left while you're moving. You gotta stop, turn left, and then you can go, straight. Which in a game where, especially with this about not getting killed by zombies, that could be a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, I actually played a little bit of the original Resident Evil. I didn't play the remake, but the actual original one, and man, it was it's so frustrating. You got to stand there and basically take your lumps when you're trying to fight this zombie. You know.
Yeah, you can't just yeah, exactly. You can't just like, oh, just run. Oh, and you go left. Okay, go left. No. You gotta going straight. Oh, and you go left, stop, slowly turn your character to the left. Okay, now go. And
Yeah,
that was the struggle with the D-pad.
that's so shit. But even like, for instance, I mean, jumping way ahead, Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 4 had kind of you had to stop and fight. Kind of, guess that kind of paid homage to the original Resident Evils.
Yeah, so like that I feel was more of like a design choice. This I
Yeah,
think was more of like this was the limitations of the technology at the time.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, that is true. I just don't understand
Um, I mean,
why you would continue to go with that.
it's just I guess maybe they thought like, oh, it's iconic now, the shitty controls, so we just gotta roll with it. I don't know. I mean, some people like it. I mean, for a challenge, I can definitely see it. I digress. So with this, obviously it wasn't ideal. It's not like this is more like a niche thing where people are like, I like this. I think most people are like, we can't keep doing this. This is awful. So this is
Right.
where the N64 comes in, the Nintendo 64, because now this is the first home console with the analog stick, and they designed this specifically for Mario 64.
Okay. Yeah, I actually, so I got the Nintendo 64 around the time it came out, and I had
Mm.
Mario 64, I had The Legend of Zelda, I had, of course, the I don't know if I assume we're gonna head into it, so, but yeah, the 007 classic.
Oh, I was gonna say yeah. So lucky, no, we were a Sega family, so I had to go to my cousins to play the N64. I loved both, but yeah, definitely something. I think yeah, the part of it was definitely like, oh god, we should have gotten the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, it's that was such a big part of my childhood. I remember playing, Bond and Super Mario World, and I mean a bunch of other race. I mean, Nintendo 64 was just such a good console. Pokemon Stadium, and the
Mhm.
the other one where you're taking pictures of the little Pokemon. I forget what it's called.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they did a weird. I have remember other weird games like Glover. That was a weird one on the N64.
you just play like a big glove,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know the whole story about that, but yeah, it was that. Conker's Bad Fur Day, Banjo Kazooie.
Yeah, Conker's was a really bad one, really weird one too, because it was such odd.
It was vulgar.
Yeah, I mean, because everything else, I mean, and Nintendo was like really, child friendly and
Hmm.
super, I mean, and nothing too raunchy, but yeah, Conker's
But
Bad Fur Day was like really raunchy, bloody. I mean, it was everything.
yeah, it was wow. Like I saw that, I'm like, this is on Nintendo. Are you kidding me? This would never get past like the first level of development nowadays. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
it was so crazy. But yeah, like getting back to the when the N64 first came out. So yeah, like I said, this was designed for a Mario 64, And the big thing
Mhm.
about this was the hardware and the software developers worked together on this to find out what controller they needed for a 3D platform game, which Mario 64 was the first of its kind. And that's when they came up with the idea, like, we need an analog stick, and we need for the players to be able to control the camera,
Right, right.
which is
And
the
I can
analog
see
stick
it.
obviously for controls. And this is
Yeah.
I forgot what the yellow buttons did because it's just been so long. The yellow buttons on the N64 control the camera.
Right, right. Hence the 4C button.
Mm-hmm.
button.
Yeah, like I guess except I'm sure when I played it at the time, like, oh yeah, I know what it is, but because I haven't played that in like over 15 years, it's like, oh boy, what did those yellow buttons do? And then I read this, I'm like, all right.
So at this time, this is really groundbreaking stuff because it's the first one to do it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
now, I mean, you can't play a home console without there being an or two analog sticks.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing too. There's only one analog stick. Like, you look at the
Right.
N64, it's like, what is this?
It's
How
a
do you
mess
hold
of
this?
controller. Yeah, I don't know if it's a sex toy or I'm gonna play Mario 64.
Yeah, it's like two controllers morphed in the middle, and then and then where like the controllers met, it just became one big controller, a stick. That's like what it looks like.
Yeah, but Nintendo has like they have a history of just making weird controllers. I guess, and that all started with the Nintendo 64. And I mean, I guess really got boosted up with the introduction of the Wii for sure. But
I mean, hell, even the GameCube one was wild.
oh, dude, I forgot about the GameCube. Yeah,
Yeah, which is that's kind of their forgotten console, which is a shame because there's good stuff on there. And when I say the GameCube controller is wild, it's weird looking, but honestly, pretty good to hold.
see, I didn't mess with it too much. I definitely from at that age, I was stuck on the PlayStation fanboy train for sure.
Yeah, I think at this point too, because yeah, I think it came with the same generation as the Xbox and PS2, I want to say.
Right.
So, and I don't think they marketed it well. Like I said, that's this whole thing. That's something I definitely want to get my hands on. I've only played the GameCube a handful of times, but I enjoyed it. Um, like I said, yeah, like that, and I think that's another big reason why the N64 is now an iconic console, is because it was the first to do these things, and because of that, it has like some of the most iconic games out there.
And so, were there any other features that we really see as standard now that they kind of added around this time period, maybe to the Nintendo 64?
I think as far
Or
as the Nintendo 64, not really. Like I said, the biggest things obviously with the analog stick and the ability to control the camera, but to control the camera with buttons, like you said, the four yellow C buttons.
yeah, but didn't they? Because remember that there was like a slot in the controller that could do a bunch of weird stuff. I think it served as maybe a memory card, and then they had like a what is it, like a vibration, like a rumble pack in it.
Oh yes, yeah, I totally forgot about that. I think the N64 too was like, was it I think it was like, yeah, you could add the rumble pack to it. I want to say though the one that made that like standard was the PS2 controller, was where it had like the haptic feedback. I think.
Uh, what
I
about
think. Or
PS1?
no. There was a game. There was a game on the N64 that did have the Rumble Pack. No. It's starting to come back to me.
Uh, Star
Oh,
Fox.
yes, there you go. Okay, I thank God I did write it down just a little later. Yes. So as for if anyone knows like haptic feedback or Rumble Pack, it's vibration. Is what we now know it as.
And then on PS1, MGS really had a cool little thing during the boss fight, right? With Praying Mantis, or what was is that his name? Praying
Psycho Mantis.
oh, Psycho.
It was yeah,
Psycho.
place. You're good. I forgive you. It happens. I mean, I totally forgot that. Yeah, right. The first PlayStation controller had vibration too because of this part. I should have known. I am ashamed now. Yeah, so
It's a
like it
long.
had that.
It's been a long 12 hours.
We're both kind of out of it. No. But before we did that too. So like after this, because I thought this too. Like, oh, I swear that the original PlayStation had the two analog sticks too. Well, now I know from this, the OG version of the controller just had, it's the same controller minus the analog sticks. After the N64 came out, that's when Sony added the 2 analog sticks to the PlayStation. So one for the movement and then one for the control, which obviously now is like the way to go. And that's basically how things have worked since then.
Okay, and I remember it also had a button, right, to turn on and off the analog sticks, which to me is kind of a weird feature. That's like you really want to turn off the analog sticks?
Yeah, I guess maybe that's more for people who are like so used to it. Like if you played, like if like you said here, if you played like Metal Gear Solid, maybe the analog stick is just isn't right for you, and it's like that's fine, especially with the way the camera is and stuff. I'll just stick to the D-pad. So yeah, it's crazy to think like for a while into the PS2 era, you could turn off the analog stick, whereas now it's like using analog sticks and the D-pad has transitioned from movement to like quick selection or inventory or like secondary things, stuff like that.
Right, right. And then yeah, it's just so crazy to
Right?
think about. I mean, imagine if The Last of Us did not have analog sticks, or
Oh God.
yeah, and yeah, well, I don't want to skip too far ahead, but there's definitely been. I feel like now we're in an area of experimentation and maybe some refining, with some of the things that have already been on the controllers. I feel like there's a lot of refining going on in experimentation. Like, we'll just keep going. We'll keep going.
Yeah, yeah. So we're near the end of this article. So like after the analog sticks, I mean, really, there's only been at the time of this article, there were only a few big developments since then, being the haptic feedback, the vibration, as we now know, is like commonplace, and analog buttons, which is basically the game responding to how hard you press a button, which is mainly used in driving games.
Okay, yeah, for like either speed or like you're pressing the throttle more or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And there was, like you said, there was some experimentation. Like you said, we mentioned light guns. A weird controller. This would technically be a controller. Would be like the Dance Dance Revolution pads. That's an
Kind of like a
example.
lot
Like
of gimmicky
yeah,
controllers that
gimmicks.
you'd only use. Okay.
And
And
at
another.
the first one here that I mentioned, which when I think of this, I think of the Kinect. But I completely forgot about this. It was the Sony iToy, which would be like motion detecting, but like not like motion controller.
Right.
And like I said, this is on the PS2. The technology was not there at all. Like on the Kinect, it wasn't even there. So imagine it worse. That's probably what the Sony iToy is.
Yeah, I remember the Kinect just seemed really gimmicky. And it's just kind of weird because whenever you think of a gimmick, you think of something that only works with
Hmm
maybe one thing. Um, where because the Kinect's meant to work with multiple different things, and yes, Jeffrey. Oh, sorry. I grew
No,
up
you
in
good.
Spain.
You good.
Can you hear him?
No, yeah, it's all good. I'm lucky. My cats are away right now, so I know once in a while they'll jump on here. I gotta throw them off.
Yeah, well, he just walked in the room. He's been kind of needy lately. Uh, but whenever you
You good.
think of a gimmick, you think of something that works with just one thing.
Hmm
Like I don't know if you've there's that Tony Hawk game. I don't know, Tony Hawk Ride or whatever, where the controller's a skateboard. Do you know what I'm
I
talking
don't.
about?
I don't know if I remember that. I believe you, but I have no recollection of that.
Yeah, it had four sensors. It had one on the left, right, front, and back, and you actually go down and touch them to do like a move or something. Yeah, and it was I think it was called Sony Sony
So
Tony Hawk.
that
It was
is
called
a
Tony.
that's a good
Yes,
name for us for something.
Sony
I
Hawk.
create it. If Sony were to buy the rights to it, there you go.
Yeah, Sony Hawk. And then of course, like you brought up earlier, Dance Dance Revolution. That's I mean you can't. I mean you could technically I guess use
Yeah.
that pad with another game, but I mean you're not really going to, or even Guitar Hero or Rock Band.
Yeah.
I mean that's I mean I guess you could use those with each other, right? You can use the Rock Band guitar with the Guitar Hero, but I mean pretty much anything else that's it.
Yeah, and I know some people have like, crazy bastards. They played like or they've mapped like buttons to their like Guitar Hero controller, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna play Dark Souls now.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I mean that's ridiculous because Dark Souls. I've never really gotten into it, but of course everybody knows how hard Dark
Yeah,
Souls
no,
is,
forget
and to
that.
beat it with a fucking guitar, like what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, it's kind of like now what they're kind of used for is like, for streaming or like little like YouTube videos where it's like, this is the challenge. I'm like, all right, I'll watch this. This is insane. And before we
Yeah.
go too far off into that, so those were like the things at the time. And like I said, things that he touched upon but couldn't elaborate on that much because they were still pretty new were touch screens and motion sensing. So, no, like the DS, Nintendo DS, and the Wii.
Hmm.
And I want to just kind of, I have it written out here because, like I said, this is always nice to kind of look back upon and, I guess, see what was the thought process, I guess, at the time. So, last paragraph of this article: the future of game controllers is unknown. If the Nintendo Wii is as successful as the Nintendo DS, then gesture recognition and pointer technology could be the future of all game control. If the Wii fails, then players will continue using regular gamepads until a new, cheap, more immersive technology arrives. It can be seen that controls and games can affect each other equally. The earliest games had to work with whatever limited technology was available, while some of the more recent games can push development of a controller down a specific path that usually ends up helping all games like it.
Yeah, so I see here it mentions PlayStation 3 have this as an added functionality, which I distinctly remember because it's called Six Axis. I remember it was like a
Yes.
big thing when it first came out.
Mhm.
And there was like a dragon game where you can kind of fly the dragon and whatever motion you made the controller, if you
God.
leaned it to the left or right, which I can only imagine how horrible it is. Even Call of Duty 3 had a very simple one where you if you just kind of yank the controller like you're about to throw it, it
Yeah.
would cause your guy to basically hit somebody with the butt of the rifle, like a bash button, I guess.
Yeah.
And then another cool one, which I thought was actually really cool, was in Killzone 2. Whenever you're using the sniper,
Oh,
whatever,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
whenever you're aiming down the sights, whatever little movement you did, it was kind of like the sway of the
Hmm.
sniper rifle. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. I did appreciate that one for sure. The other ones just kind of seemed gimmicky. And you know what? I think even in GTA 4, you can use six axis to fly a helicopter.
Yes, I do remember that. Oh my God. I think, yeah, it's one of those things where like, I completely forgot that was like a feature in a game in games. And I think it's just something that just never really they never try to develop things um for
Yeah.
whatever reason. Probably because it wasn't that responsive. I'm sure now it could be done. But yeah, like you said, in 2006 when this first came out, I was probably like, we're not there yet, buddy.
Yeah, and I mean even the Wii was still. I mean, it was pretty innovative for the time.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
did it have a camera that tracked the movement, or it was all in the controllers? I think, right?
I think there was a camera. Oh God, my sister had the Wii. We played it all the time. It was so it, wa- it is maybe as clunky as could be with certain games. The shit was fun. um,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
really fun. I honestly don't remember. I want to say there was some kind of like maybe not a camera, but some kind of motion detector. I want to say. Don't quote me on that.
Like maybe a little bar or something.
Something I think that might be it. That might be it. So like maybe it's like the Connect.
Like
It's because the Connect was like a bar and a camera. I want to
okay, it
say.
might have been like an IR blaster kind of bar that kind of. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
Like I said, it's been such a
Uh,
long time, so sorry for getting this like all wrong. But like I said, I haven't played the Wii in over 10 years, so much longer than that, honestly. So
and so like you said, I mean, this article was written in 2006. So I mean, now like
mhm.
on the PS4 and the PS5, we have kind of a touch screen on our, well, not necessarily a screen, but kind of a touch on our controllers, right? I mean, we got
Yeah,
that
so
whole
like that's
touchpad.
yeah, so that's something that they didn't catch on. Not their fault; they can't see the future. But yeah, like the touchpad would probably be the next big thing for us specifically on Sony. And I think at first that was mostly just like a quick menu thing.
Right, right.
It seems like recently now, with like later in the generation, the PS4 now, I can't say for the PS5 because like motherfuckers can't find one. It's being implemented more now for sure.
So basically, what I was talking about was refinement and kind of a little bit of experimentation. Because like with the PS5, they really did. improve the haptic feedback when you're driving. You can kind of like almost feel the bumps, like you can feel the vibration of the car and
Hmm.
the controllers. Weird as that sounds, just a little purrs, and like whenever the engine picks up, and RPMs or like that, you can kind of like
Hmm.
feel that in the controller. And then the adaptive triggers, so the triggers actually press back. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah, I was
a
just gonna ask you about
feature you can
that.
turn off or on. Yeah, so Call of Duty, like if you're picking up a heavier gun, like if you're about to shoulder let's say I don't know, a light machine gun, you're
Hmm.
gonna have a little bit more feedback, or you're gonna have to press back a little bit harder on that trigger. I mean, even online,
Yeah.
which a lot of people turn it off because it's, if you're fast twitch, you're trying to
Yeah.
aim as fast as you can. And then with the lighter guns, like pistols, are like really way easier to aim out the sights. Excuse me, I'm sorry, man. I just
But we're recording this after work, so
yeah.
if we're sounding a little tired or like we're taking breaths, like not trying to yawn, that is the reason why. Right?
Yeah, I woke up at 4:30 this morning, so it's
Jesus,
what, 9:31 now.
I have no right to bitch.
Oh no,
uh,
dude, it's on day's work, as they say.
so you got that with the PS5. I think now a huge thing, and I think it's not entirely true now, but what he said is, you know, we're using regular Game Pass until a new, cheap, more immersive technology arrives. It is not cheap, but I think it will
No,
be
no.
someday. But this is basically VR. Is what
Right.
this is.
So I have the PSVR, and I know you.
Hmm.
So tell me your first experience, because you came over and you played Skyrim, which is a game we both fucking love.
Hmm.
How was playing it in VR? How did that change your experience, do you think, opposed to even if you were to play a super modded out version of Skyrim on
Hmm.
PC or whatever? How
Yeah.
different was the immersion factor as far as Skyrim goes?
Yeah. So first, I will say I have seen the PlayStation 5 now. It is real and it's not just a hoax. So let's just clarify that now. It is real for people who haven't seen it. I have seen it now. And two,
Yeah.
yeah, with the VR, I've had experiences with it, but not like, heavy. So like when you showed me it with first Skyrim and then the Batman Arkham VR. Yeah, jumping to Skyrim, it was pretty cool at first. Just kind of like it took a while to set up. It was kind of, I want to say a pain, but it's just like it's a process, obviously. And so, but when you finally in the menu, you kind of see the main menu screen. You're like, oh, that's cool. You can kind of use like little nunchucks to like move it, select, and then obviously when it fades in, and you open your eyes and you see you're in the wagon, and it's like, oh, it's that iconic meme, whatever. But then I realized, like, I'm like, oh my god, they're like right next to me. Oh god, I can touch them if I want to. It was
Yeah.
I was taken aback. Like I know like a couple times you had to like correct me and go like, Jacob, turn this way because you're like going too crazy. Like I'm trying to turn my whole body everywhere. It's like, no, no, you gotta face the screen.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest setbacks I will say, opposed to like the Quest 2, is
Hmm.
you actually have a light that tracks the position of the move controllers, the little light ball, and then also there's a couple of
Yeah.
light indicators on the headset itself. Whereas the Quest, I don't believe has any cameras and can kind of be used anywhere, but is a lot less powerful than maybe the PSVR or an Oculus 5 or whatever.
Yeah. So like I feel like we're kind of in that place where I mean hell like 5 or 6 years ago VR was starting to become a thing where like it's a joke whatever, and now it's still trying to find its footing. But I think it's getting to the point now where we go, oh shit, this is actually something we can play like this
I
now.
think it's really getting some credibility, like, because we're having some real games put on it, right? The whole ass Skyrim game got put on it. Then you have Half-Life Alyx, right? You
Yeah,
have
Resident Evil
Walking Dead
7.
Saints and Sinners, Resident Evil 7. I mean, these are some hard-hitting games that are really good.
Like it's becoming
Like,
like
and
a
then
in a way
like I
it's becoming
said,
like a port for it now.
yeah, yeah. And I think they just released GTA San Andreas in VR, believe it or
Oh
not.
wow.
Yeah, that might
I feel
hurt
like
my
that'd be.
eyes.
I would say that actually might be sick. I don't get really motion sickness, but I feel like seeing that I'd probably get freaked out too. Like, ugh, this is what the hell is this? I don't like this.
So, so how did you feel about that? Because I know your favorite hero is Batman, really. So, how was that Batman game? How'd you? I know it was really short, but besides
Yeah.
that, how'd you like that?
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. It's like I think that was more of like what's it called? Like a demonstration of what it
Yeah,
can do.
yeah,
So like yeah, like I wish I could do more. For me, I think maybe like when it comes to like action stuff, I probably at least now I can't handle that kind of stuff. I was just like that'd be a little too much for me. But that kind of like sleuth detective kind of feel, like that's perfect. That's like I think that's a perfect way to like introduce anyone that can like has any kind of decent handle on modern technology. Like they can jump in there and go, okay, I can figure this out. It's pretty simple, but I loved it. I'm just seeing like, oh, I'm Batman now. Like it was a nice little thing, and I, what is it? It makes you feel like Batman. But no, it was nice like seeing like because one of the my favorite things from the a Batman game that a lot of people talk about is Arkham Origins is that they put like a heavy emphasis on like deconstructing the scene, like in that
right.
like that one part in the Arkham VR, and you do that like 3 or 4 times in that game, and it's really fun because you like that you have to like set the scene, go through all these evidence, these different types of types of evidence, and then piece together what happened. And that was always a blast to do. I think that was an underrated part of that game. So they kind of we were able to do that here, and then but also like actually kind of like feel like you're literally there solving it. It was a cool feeling. So for me, that's kind of like the game I would do if I want to do more VR. I think that's like what it perfectly can handle right now. Not to say it can't do other things. It can obviously, like you said, Half-Life Alex is a great, it really pushed the limits of what that's I guess system can do.
Man, so yeah, I mean that one's really badass. But another one I don't think you got to play on VR was Super Hot.
Oh
That
yeah,
one
that'll
was
probably be crazy.
super, super fun. Yeah, next time you come over, yeah, you definitely got to give that a try. But to me, VR is getting some credibility. They're definitely adding some stuff. Have you seen those omnidirectional treadmills they have for VR now? And you
I have
can actually
not.
get one in your home. I mean, they're thousands of dollars, but you could get them. So it basically holds you by the waist,
Hmm.
and you kind of put these you kind of tape something to your shoe, or you get a pair of shoes and you put these almost like a kind of like tap dance kind of things on them, so that way there's no friction between or there's less friction between your feet and the it's an omnidirectional treadmill, and
Yeah.
it allows you to move in game instead of using the controller to kind of point where you're going. So that's like another added
Ah.
level of immersion. And then even that, I mean, I've even seen a video recently of some of the technologies that they're doing as far as controllers and actually, having a sensation of touching something.
Oh God.
And it's basically these kind of air, uh, I guess this kind of ribbed air system that's on the inner side, like I guess it's the inside part of your hand, and it fills up with air, whenever you're touching something to kind of give
Hmm.
it a little bit of force back, or a little bit of force. That way it feels like you're holding something now, not necessarily in the general sense of the word, but I think with
Hmm.
what your brain is thinking you're seeing and all this and that,
Yeah.
it might definitely help. And I've even seen people, just jerry rig some things, like in Skyrim, they put a bunch of fans together. So if you went into a cold area, you would have fans blowing in your face, which it's a
Yeah.
whole nother level. Yeah. I
Man,
mean,
VR porn's gonna take off now.
oh, dude. Yeah.
No, that'll push the limits of VR. Just give it to them, and then they'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's insane to think. Like before, it was just like, oh, I'm in the game, cool. And now it's like, no, man, you're gonna get shot. You're gonna feel it. You're gonna actually die. You see the
Well,
Matrix. That's
there's
next.
actually a Battlefield 3. There's a video of people in Battlefield 3, and they one of the earlier models, the omnidirectional treadmill, was actually a moving kind of treadmill, I believe. And they had it to where if you got shot, I want to say you either got hit with paintballs or you got shocked.
God damn.
Yeah, and I mean, but this was something that cost, I mean, way outside of anybody's range, and there had to be a pretty big room that they sat in. But yeah, it cost thousands and probably tens of thousands of dollars to do. But yeah, I
Hmm.
remember, so that was something that happened years ago. I mean, like I said, back in when Battlefield 3 came out.
It's a while back. Shit. Wow.
Yeah,
No, yeah, it'll be interesting to see like the thing like even by 2025, where VR is going to be, that's it's gonna be kind of crazy to think about. It could be like completely. It could be this. I wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me if by then it was like a completely different beast, or it was pretty similar to where it is now. I wouldn't be surprised by either one of those happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in the future. I mean, it's like makes me wonder, like, hey, are we gonna move to a kind of a brain jack kind of matrix thing? Where you're gonna hook up and your essence is gonna kind of be surfing along in the internet? I guess I don't know.
Oh God, it's gonna be crazy to think, man. Like hell, like that's been crazy by 2025. Who knows by 2030 what will happen? I mean, to think like, what is it like 10 years ago? It was still like PS3, like near the end of the PS3 era, to
Right.
where we're at now. That's a huge difference. So who knows by then what the next 10 years will bring us, where the next evolution and controls, and maybe not even someday, maybe not even have controls and not controllers in a way.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Sony's gonna do with the PSVR 2. I don't think they're gonna do anything crazy like, gloves that you put on and give you some kind
Yeah.
of feedback or whatever. But just to see, what's the next step, I mean, because whenever like the main players in something, whenever something gets, a hold of them and their attention, innovations are going to be made.
No, yeah, that's the thing. It's you always kind of think like, oh, they can't do anything better. Like there was always something. There's always room for improvement. And I guess I think VR will be that huge thing now, that huge next step into how games are consumed. Um, but before we get into, I don't know if there's anything else you have anything else to add on that.
As far as controllers go, man, not really. I mean, I think we really went over kind of the evolution of the controls really well. And like Jacob said, sorry if we sound a little tired or whatever, but I think you got off of work not too long ago, and like I said, I've been up since about 4:30. So yeah, we've both been getting it today. You got two very dedicated hosts that are here for your entertainment and pleasure, but in a good way, in a good way.
We gotta, we always try to make sure we record these like in at least an average mood. No, not a mood like we're angry or nothing, but like with decent energy. Try to we don't want to just be like dragging and seeing like we don't want to do this, but there's times like, hey, desperate times, we gotta record, man, when we can. So surprisingly,
Yeah,
this is like
for
the first
sure.
episode we're recording like after work. Usually we're pretty good at getting these on our days off.
Yeah, but I just figured to give it a try. I mean, uh, to me, this is definitely a mood booster. I mean, it's been a rough week at work,
No.
as I spoke to you about earlier. But yeah, it's been a rough week. So this is definitely just. I mean, this is hanging out with my best friend. We are the two unrelated brothers. We've been friends for what over a decade.
Well, I'll say pretty much
For
at
like a really
like about half our lives now,
yeah, yeah,
a little
and
bit
and
over.
yeah, at one point, many people don't know, but we lived together. I mean, we really were two brothers. I mean, if you needed something, I was here for you, and if I needed something, you were here for me, man. I remember when I mean, to get off topic, I remember when I was like dying of I went to a gas station, got nitro coffee. I guess because the
Oh my
machine was cold
god.
opposed to hot, so maybe like bacteria grew in that machine. I was sick with food poisoning for what, like 3 days, four
3 or
days. I was
4
just
days.
dead in my room, like throwing up and just shitting everywhere. And you were a lifesaver. You were coming in with the Powerades. You're coming in hot with them, dude.
Yeah, I
You
gotta make
know?
sure you didn't die. And there was a time too when I finally caught the flu, and I was just like, I have never had it before, and I'm like, oh, it's not like, it can't be that bad. It's fucking bad. And you're there like you gotta be like fucking soup and shit. Like it sounds borderline romantic, but it's more like I need to make sure this motherfucker lives.
Yeah, yeah. We've been there for each other for a really long time, and hey, I still am, and
No,
I know
yeah,
you
for
still are
sure.
too.
No, yeah,
So
it's always here. Like I said, same thing. It's always a nice morale booster. It's like I said, it's a hobby. So and before we end this one, I wanted to get into I guess maybe small part two of actually what kind of inspired you with this idea. This episode was your idea. This is more specifically we talked about controllers, but real quick, just real quick, I want to talk about how the controller schemes changed.
Yeah. So what actually inspired me is I'm pretty sure the Fear episode's already up by now.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing Fear. And I noticed how different they were as far as aiming down the sights and some of the buttons they used to reload or jump or whatever. And then I started playing Rainbow Six Vegas 1. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
fuck, man, these controllers were tripping me up. I was throwing grenades instead of reloading. I was doing all
Oh
kinds of
yeah.
crazy shit. And it just really made me think, like, man, because now, I mean, I feel like games kind of follow the standard kind of, like, for instance, when you're playing a shooter, you can kind of expect something close to that Call of Duty
Right.
control scheme that's been there since, like, what, Call of Duty 3, for sure.
Modern
So
Warfare, at least.
yeah, definitely Modern Warfare. So, it wasn't always like that. There was some wacky shit, especially in the PS2 days. I mean, there was
Mm-hmm.
some crazy
Yeah.
stuff. And I mean, you were even talking about, because I'm not really a driving game person, but I know you played a lot of driving games. You're telling me how even that evolved a lot.
Well, think kind of back to like PS2 with GTA. X was to
Right.
accelerate and square was to, I think it was, yes, square was to brake and reverse. Whereas now it's right trigger to accelerate, left trigger to decelerate and reverse. And now it's like, oh yeah, that's way better now. But back then it's like, oh, this is normal. Like changing the triggers is like, oh, I don't like this at the time.
Yeah, because they took off that kind of back support for the R2 and L2, and I think that's
Hmm.
when those kind of got utilized for aiming down the sights and then pulling a trigger on a weapon, or accelerating or decelerating.
Yeah, so I actually have a couple of manuals here because I feel like this is probably one of the better examples here instead of just trying to remember what the controls were. So I have here manuals for Mercenaries, a classic, and the first Star Wars Battlefront, the PS2. And I picked these specifically because Mercenaries was, I believe, 2005, Battlefront was 2004. So about a year difference, not huge. And they're both by LucasArts. So you'd think they have similar controls, especially being
Mhm.
shooters. They do not. So I'm just gonna give you a button, Jerry, and you try to tell me what you think that button does. So this is for
Okay.
mercenaries.
Okay.
Okay. I told you a couple of these, so you may know, if you may remember. X button.
Okay. Okay. So this one's cheating. I'm tired, but I'm not that tired. I remember what this one does. Reload, which is so fucking odd
Isn't
nowadays,
that
because
fucking
reload's usually like
insane?
square.
Yes,
Yeah.
and even back then, I would say even in the PS2 era, X usually I'd say it's like jump.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
So like
so.
what the fuck? Okay, square,
Uh, maybe throw a grenade.
bash. So I assume
Okay,
that's a melee.
mash.
Okay,
Okay.
triangle.
Was that to switch weapons?
That's the action button.
Okay.
So like I'm guessing
Okay.
like yeah, to interact with things or like to get into vehicles. Okay, circle.
Was that to reload?
That's jump. X is reload.
Oh shit.
No, as I'm saying, they're switched. Those buttons are switched. It should be the
Okay.
opposite.
Yeah.
Circles
Okay.
jump. That's fucked up. That's why like I tried to replay this game like a couple years back. I'm like, what is this? It's bizarre. Okay, L1.
Does that one shoot? No. Does that one like aim your sights or whatever?
Throw grenade.
Oh, okay.
Okay, L2.
Is that one aiming down your sights?
That one's switch grenades. Switch grenade types.
Oh, is this one the ones where R3 aims down your sights?
Let me see here. Kind of. R3 is binoculars. I don't think there's an actual aim down the sights one in this game.
What?
I'm looking at it. I don't see it. No,
What the fuck?
I
That has to be
know.
something.
I don't think there is. Not in the first mercenaries, at least.
Was
All
there a
right.
directional pad button, like if you were going to aim down a scope or something?
I think the D-pad at this time too was still like. Okay, no. Let me see here. Okay, up and down is scroll through support items.
Okay.
Left is toggle faction flags above soldiers. Oh yeah, I forgot about that mechanic. And then right is display merchant of Menace Shop. So yeah,
Okay.
there's no yeah, you don't aim down the sights on this one. All right.
Damn.
And then okay, so I know it. Okay, so last one. You should maybe get one of these at least. R1.
Shoot.
Yes, you got it.
Okay.
And or select support item, whichever one.
Okay.
And then R2.
To reload?
Switch weapons. Switch primary
Fuck.
weapons.
I'm you told reload is X.
I was
Like,
gonna
fuck.
say, yeah, okay, this is where
Yeah.
now the fatigue's getting to you a bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so this is just on foot. I'm not getting into the actual vehicles because that's probably a whole different thing. But that's you already saw like that's fucking wild. That control scheme. That is disgusting. So now I'm gonna jump into the Battlefront controls. All right, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So X button.
That jumps. That's gotta jump.
And that is jump. And if you press it
Okay.
again with a certain class, that's a jetpack.
Okay.
So already that's fucking confusing from the same studio. Like, what is that?
Yeah, but no, they were both by Pandemic, right? I mean,
I don't LucasArts. I don't think Pandemic did Battlefront.
I could have swore they did Battlefront.
I don't see their logo on here. Maybe it was one of those things where like, no, Pandemic's been around for a while, so I don't know. Maybe it's just not on this one specifically, but I just know it's LucasArts. It's very possible they did, but no, they definitely would have had a logo on this shit. Okay. Circle.
Oh wait, they did. Pandemic Studios
Did you?
was the developer and the publisher was Lucasfilms.
So then
So
what the hell?
they both were Lucasfilm what published and Pandemic
Pandemic.
Studios developed.
So then that's even more confusing. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because then also here, oh yeah, I should have known this too. On the back of this manual, God, remember manuals? It says Mercenaries Playground Destruction coming January 2005. God damn. So
Yeah.
that's even more confusing then. All right. God damn. All right. What does circle do?
Uh, throw a grenade.
Single tap to crouch, quick double tap to go prone.
Okay.
Oh
Okay.
shit, I didn't know that. I didn't know you could go prone in that game. What the fuck? Wow.
Now you do.
Triangle.
Did that switch guns?
That's the action button.
Okay. I'm used to the
Square.
action button kind of being a square.
Yeah. I think it usually is. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I think triangle. That might have been consistent at the era. It's been a while. I'll have to play more games to see. Square.
I thought we did square. Square.
No, circle is the. We did circle. We did X, circle,
Okay, we did.
triangle. So square.
So that's gotta reload.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I got one. Okay, L1.
Was that to throw grenades?
Yes, it says fire secondary weapon, which I'm pretty sure is that. So that's consistent. L2.
Okay. Was that to maybe change your grenade type?
Yes.
Okay.
And then R1.
It's fire.
And then R2.
Was that to change your gun?
Yes. So at least the shoulder buttons were consistent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Still so odd.
the face buttons are bizarre.
I felt like the UI was like really refined. And I think Grand Theft Auto really made some steps, especially with like 5 with that weapons wheel. I will say that's one thing I do like about the remasters that still is Grand Theft Auto 5's weapon wheel.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. It seems like something people can't really complain about. Yeah, that's just like I said, or like back then it was, you use the D-pad to move. You could if you wanted to, and it was the L1 and R1 buttons that changed the weapons, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just fuck, I don't know. It's so
Like I said,
weird.
like I only picked these because I have the manuals on me right now.
Right.
I know I can think of more where it's just like it's bizarre. Like I said, I know Area 51 had some weird ass controls. Like I said, Midnight Club, that's a whole different game, but the driving and stuff like that's a bizarre experience. So yeah, like I think it definitely the controls have definitely changed with the actual controllers. Like I think as they've become like you said more refined, I think developers also figured out like we can't just keep making random buttons different things. We have to like set some sort of like precedent for like how things work. Like obviously it's not all going to be exactly the same because it's different games, but like you said, like for the shooting game, left trigger to aim, right trigger to shoot, and that has to be it.
Yeah, it's been pretty standard for a while, and that's why it kind of fucks me up when I like I said, whenever I played Fear, and you got to click the L3, or whenever I played Rainbow Six Vegas, and the same thing, you got to click the L3, and also it's a toggle kind of thing. Whereas with the triggers, it's definitely you release it whenever you're done. Yeah, it's just
the toggle aiming. I don't know how we did it back. I honestly don't remember how we. Not only did we play games back then, how we played them well.
Well, I mean, I would argue I probably wasn't playing them well, but I was definitely.
You know what? No, you're right.
No, yeah, I don't want to give myself too much credit.
No, I never beat Mercenaries. I couldn't beat the last level.
No, I don't know if I ever did.
It's like that I wanted to fill that into because, like I said, that was obviously the big thing is the controllers and the layouts. But want to give a quick little segment on that because, like I said, it's just funny to think too. Like, say the controllers, like, oh, it's so obvious. Like, this should do this is what we need. And then related to that too is like the buttons. Like, why is X reload? It should be jump. That makes no sense.
Yeah, and I mean it's not hard to argue that we've came a fucking far away from the 1950s or 1964. I mean, like I said, that one from 1964, Space Wars, was like 2 fucking like toggle switches, and now I mean, shit, I don't even. I mean, let's see. If you're trying to count all the controls, so you got 4 for the triggers, and then you got 8. You got 8 because the directional buttons, and then the 4 buttons on the other side. Yeah, so that's 8, and then you got the analogs, and then the L3, R3. I mean, that's quite a few, man. That's
and then that's not even counting the touchpad.
Oh yeah, and different motions on certain games do different things, right?
Exactly. And then again, that's just with us. We're talking specifically about Sony. The Xbox has its own thing. Obviously, Nintendo does whatever the fuck it wants. The Switch is its own beast.
Yeah, and then PC, like when you're playing a game like Warcraft or whatever, it's like you got 1 through 5, and you got a hotkey. This item is fucking the J button or whatever. Like there's all this crazy customization you can get with your peripherals as well. Like some people don't even have a mouse; they have that little. I think it's called an orb weaver, or it's just a couple of it's the kind of the buttons that you need to move and map with your items.
Yeah. I mean, some people just use a trackball or something. Dude, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, dude. There's only one ball that I try. It's my own.
Wait, just one?
Well, I mean, ever since the accident.
I was gonna say their time in the army left you scarred.
Yeah, scarred with one head.
Another thing too, like is again, this is so dumb, I think, to mention, but because it's so normal now. I remember going from wired to wireless controllers. That was a huge thing.
Yeah, I mean, because whenever I got the PS2, I went and bought wireless controllers. Otherwise, you're sitting right up against the TV. And I know back in the day, like when you're on a tube or a CRT, TV, I mean, it's not a big deal because usually those are a lot smaller. Because once you start getting those big ones, they're fucking heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, even a 30-inch. I mean, it might take 2 people to lift a 30-inch TV. It's ridiculous. Whereas now, I mean, you got like 50-inch or whatever in your living room or in your bedroom, and I mean, you can sit comfortably far away.
Yeah. No. So what do you think? The jump to that too is just with the TVs, and then with the fucking controllers too. Man, I have broken 2 PS2s because I stepped on the PS2 control wires.
Oh yeah, and it just fucking flung that thing.
It just flung that, and I remember the first time I did that, and I'm surprised Steven didn't kill me. I honestly wouldn't have blamed him.
What? Yeah, my dad's dog did that, and it flew from a good 7 feet because it was on top of the TV.
Oh no!
Yeah, but it didn't break.
Wow, would you have like the original black box?
Yeah, I did.
Those things are sturdy. They can kill a man if they fall.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of dented on the end, but in fact, a neighbor back in the day stole our PlayStation, and we recognized it was our PlayStation whenever we went to go hang out at his house.
What the fuck?
Because
you hide that shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, he had no shame, dude. I was like, man, let me check your save files, bro. Let me check your save files.
He's had a feeling.
Yeah, I was like, man, that dent looks oddly familiar.
That's fucking funny. Oh my god.
Yeah, break into somebody's house and then have the audacity to show
The
them the
bite.
things you stole.
That's something you'd see like on a sitcom. What the fuck?
Yeah, dude.
Like, yeah, you see
Yeah.
the movie and you go, no one's this stupid. Apparently so.
Yeah, it was that was pretty I mean, it was not funny at the time, and I can look back at
Yeah,
it and say,
that
wow.
that yeah, that's really funny. You should definitely put that in the show. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
oh yeah. But and then I remember Xbox, and I think even the 360, the wired controllers kind of had a breakaway cable, right?
I think so. I mean, it's oh god. Speaking of that too, I mean the God, do you remember that OG Xbox controller? The
Oh my
fucking
God, that thing was fucking
monstrosity.
huge. Yeah, and when you're a kid,
Yeah.
I mean, because it's big, that can fit a grown man's hands. So when you're a kid, like that's a quite a
That's
controller. That's a meaty one.
what's it called? I think it's what they call it, the Fat Boy.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
God, yeah, it's looking because I'm looking at a picture of like the controllers throughout history, and it's like, God, that is like wild too. I've never been a fan of like the placement of their analog sticks. I understand it, but I guess just because I've been like indoctrinated into the Sony way, it's like, nah, I need them next to each other now.
You know what? I like them because whenever we game on computer and it's like a game that has controller functionality, I actually play on an Xbox 360 controller, so I
Mhm.
really actually enjoy those offset analog sticks.
Yeah, I would say they've definitely grown on me. At the time, like I hated it, but probably had to do with because I played with the original Xbox controller, and that's just not good, especially when you're like you said a child, and it's like you need three hands to play it. Do you feel?
Yeah, well, I will say, yeah, that's grown on me. But one thing that it still hasn't to this day is I don't like mouse and keyboard. I played Fear 3 on the computer. I played Fear 1 on the computer, but I played a little bit of Fear 1 on the computer, but
Hmm.
I used I tried it for a little bit with the mouse and keyboard. Maybe because I just haven't found my setup.
Hmm.
Because I know like a big thing is, excuse me, I'm sorry.
You
Uh,
good?
was your setup of like people set their mouse a certain way, and I got a cool like
Yeah.
little Rick and Morty kind of mouse pad, and then I
Hmm.
even brought back that old mouse pad that had the wrist rest, I guess.
Yeah.
And even still, it's just not. I just don't enjoy it. I don't know. I'm just not good at it. And I mean, because I
Yeah.
have over a decade and a half. I mean, shit, I've been playing video games since I was 5. But I mean, as far as analog sticks, I think I have over a decade and a half of like using
Hmm.
PS2 and up kind of controllers. So it's just not. It's not something I don't know that, and I can't type, so I don't have the position of the arms and all that stuff.
No, it's no that I can see that. I mean, whenever I've been trying to like whenever it's not required, because I know some games will tell you like, hey, this is you need a controller for this. It's recommended. If it doesn't say that, I will do my best to play it with a mouse and keyboard. Like I played Dead Space 1 and 2 with a mouse and keyboard. I played Fear, oh, not the first one because we played it on the PS3, but I played Fear 2 with a mouse and keyboard. Yeah, when it comes to first person shooters, I could definitely see like, yeah, this is the way to go. Dead Space 1 and 2, that was an acquired taste. That took a bit, but once I got into the groove of it, I have stupid fingers. Um, I don't have like tiny hands, but they're not like huge either. So sometimes like it takes a bit for me to like, especially with like my pinky, like shit, am I hitting the control or the shift one? Like that's the hardest part for me.
So, did you go out and buy like a nicer mouse, or are you kind of using a regular mouse for your gaming?
My girlfriend was sweet enough to get me a like one of those fancy keyboards and a nice light up mouse. So I cannot blame my gear now for this. It's just me.
Okay, so my thing is I have a really good mouse. It's actually my favorite. I bought another one that was a similar style, but it's kind of trash.
Hmm.
So I have the Logitech G502 wired, and I really
Hmm.
like it. I hate the wire. Something about maybe sometime uh, uh, getting the wireless version, and then so I went
Yeah.
out and bought a cheaper version, the U-Tech Smart Venus Pro RGB MMO wireless gaming mouse, which is a mouthful,
I will
and
say,
it's
what the hell?
and it's kind of the similar design, but I noticed because the mouse clicks are so easy.
Hmm.
Whenever I'm resting my hand, I accidentally click the mouse,
Uh,
and it's just so light. Because in this Logitech one, Which, if I get that wireless one, do you want my wired one? More than happy to give it to you because it's a badass mouse and it's
Oh,
wired as a
oh,
whole.
I'll take this back. Oh, or maybe I'll like it even more than this one. But yeah, I'll definitely take that off your hands.
Now it's not wireless, like I said, it is wired. Or you can
That's
even have this wired one. I'm not a big fan of it. It's too light for me, and I found out the one step above it, you can add weights. Because this one, this Logitech one, you can add weights, and it has like a little thing,
mm,
um, for 'em. And yeah, and I actually have them all installed, so it's like it's really fucking it's a heavy mouse actually, because I have all of them installed. I didn't realize I did,
okay. No, yeah, I'll
but
definitely look at that.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's like I say, yeah, we're console boys, so getting into the PC was definitely tough. Like I said, where you said, but we did play games. If it was an option, like definitely I would go for the mouse and keyboard. And in some games, I feel like it's just better that way.
hmm
Like GTA, I'm kind of using a controller. I am not using a mouse and keyboard for that. Screw that.
Oh fuck yeah,
Yeah, but like something like Dead Space, like okay, it's not that bad. I think I can do it, and I did. I messed up a few times, but I think that was more on me getting used to it rather than the actual controls. Like I said, when it comes to first person shooters, I feel like that is definitely going to be the way to go. Fear 2 is a little weird with the controls, like the aiming and
definitely
stuff
more
with the toggle.
modernized.
Yeah, but it's still more
Yeah,
modernized. It's doable though.
but I understood why it was toggled after playing it on PC. I
Hmm.
kind of understood why it was toggled just because of the there's a certain button on the keyboard that kind of zoomed in, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
So
the way
I get
it
it.
was laid out was weird, but I mean, like I said, was it awful? So yeah, I still want to try my best to whenever we have games on the PC, I will try my best to play it on there with a mouse keyboard because I mean, for me, it's like, well, that's the only way I'm gonna get better. So
Yeah, I mean you're not wrong, but it's just such a struggle
no,
to.
no, I hate it too. And but I mean, there's some games too where it's necessary, like Fallout. I don't think I can play Fallout now on a controller ever again.
Really?
I love Fallout with a mouse keyboard,
Oof.
especially when it comes to inventory. So much better.
Yeah,
So much
okay.
better.
I mean, I guess I can see that. I will say one game that I do play is the Arma series, Arma 2 and 3. I do play those with a mouse and keyboard, but it's still
Mhm.
even then I'm not like good at it. Uh yeah, I'm not good at it all. RTSs, of course, I play mouse and keyboard, but those are like very
Yeah.
simple.
Hmm.
And then yeah, pretty much everything else, man. I try to
Like
play
puzzle
with the
games are
controller.
perfect with mouse keyboard too.
Okay, I'll have
Like
to
I
I'll have
think
to give those a try.
with that one game you showed me, I think that'll be fine with the mouse keyboard because it's so simple. Was it
With
Inscription?
Yes, so I actually bought that. It was on sale. Um, I haven't gotten to play it yet.
That'll be an interesting one maybe to review.
Yeah, yeah, it seems pretty dark, man. It seems really, really dark. I
Well, I
watched a
know
little bit of
that.
the story.
Yeah, I would say I know in that studio. Who's it? Digital Revolver.
Yeah, they're the guys who did
They make a bunch of shit. They have a great
Hot,
catalog.
Hotline Miami, right?
And a bunch of other stuff. I can't really name all of them right now, but they always make those weird, like quirky games.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you know it's dope. I told you I've been playing The Last of Us 2. I find that's a game I really enjoy playing as far from a gameplay perspective. I skip all the cutscenes, which I had no idea that had so like I would skip a cutscene and then it would jump to another fucking cutscene. I was like, what the fuck? And they would do it three times. Like not just once or twice, but three times. And so yeah, I skipped all the cutscenes and I got to the part where you're in the WLF kind of the hospital.
Hmm.
And whenever you're sneaking up on that chick from the water and she's on her PS Vita,
Oh yeah.
and I hear the little like music, and it was
Mhm.
fucking Hotline Miami. I get my sniper scope and I look, and it's like, yeah, she was in the middle
Yeah,
of fucking playing Hotline Miami. That was so cool. Just
that's
seeing
really
that.
funny. Yeah, it was really nice. Oh man. God. Oh, I was gonna say too. You skip it three times, cutscene, you get three cutscenes. Like amateur for Metal Gear Solid.
Oh my god. Yeah, and then not only you skipping three cutscenes, you're skipping 3 hour long, like three 1 hour long separate cutscenes.
Yeah. So
Like I
we're gonna
s-
get too much sidetracked though. But, it's fun. I think with that, yeah, I'm actually surprised we're able to talk so long about it. I mean, I guess it is 40. 50 or 60 years of shit to cover.
Yeah, and we tried to do it that part kind of quickly because we didn't want to seem like we're just reading off of an article, which we took notes and kind of looked at
Yeah.
it. But
There was
yeah,
a
we didn't
lot
want
of
to
good
get too
shit in there,
casual.
though.
Yeah, I mean that article, I got to give that guy props. He really did his research, and I mean
I would
looked
say,
into the entire history.
yeah, and I think especially, I mean, nowadays still would be like tough, but especially back then to like go like I'm gonna fucking do an academic paper on controllers. Like that's kudos, man. And it wasn't like, and it was like very aside. It would have been, it was the same, it was formatted everything. It was just any other. If he had been talking about, cancer, it'd have been like this is good. This is what I expect. So yeah, right before we decide to sign off, yeah. So the article is called "The Evolution of Game Controllers and Control Schemes and Their Effect on Their Games" by Alistair H. Cummings of the University of Southampton. Thank you, sir, for your work.
Yeah, shout out to Alistair H. Cummings. It's a badass last name.
You could work on the title; it's a mouthful, but other than that, good article.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I'll try to put a link to the article just so if anybody's interested, they can look at some of the pictures and just so you can kind of see with what people were dealing with. And it's definitely an interesting history, especially if you're somebody who's kind of younger and kind of your first time really playing games was a PS2 controller. I mean, you see a SNES or NES controller and be like, what the fuck is this block?
Yeah, so it's the thing. It's crazy to think people were like, look at a N64. I'm like, the hell is this? And like, oh, we have no idea. Hell, one we kind of forgot about to mention too, real quick. That was wild. Was the Dreamcast?
Oh yeah, fuck, I forgot all about the Dreamcast.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We didn't even mention the Sega Genesis. There's a litany of controllers out there that were just wild.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's definitely a shit ton for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, is that really all you have?
Yeah, no, I think we did a pretty good job talking
I think
about
so
it.
too.
Yeah, no, so I think, yeah, good job. This is very, very nice. One of our
Yeah, for
more
sure.
researched ones, that's for sure.
Yeah, pat on the back to both of us, and pat on the back to the listener. I appreciate y'all for listening and definitely getting through this episode with us. Like we said, we both worked. We're a little tired, but definitely more than happy to do this episode and to hang out with you guys and to hang out with each other. And I know Jacob feels the same way. And I hope y'all stay safe and are safe out there. It's a crazy world, crazy time that we're living in. But yeah, y'all stay safe, and I love you, bro.
Like Jerry said, thank you to all who listen to us and give us your time, most valuable thing. We appreciate it, and I love you too, Jerry.